Welcome to the Zesty Podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I am your producer, Rose Marina Boubion, and we're here today with Malik, Taka Anderson.
Hey, Rose.
Today, I, as your producer, will actually be sitting in the host seat, and Malik is in the guest seat. So let's get into it. My first question, Malik, is why Taka? Tell us about that.
That is so funny. I think I've told this story maybe like 100 times before, but like this was like actually a college nickname. Some of my fraternity brothers, I think it was one in particular, like started calling me. Basically, it's off a song. If you know, you know. But it's Koriki Taka, Tony Rosario, and it goes like Koriki Taka ti, Koriki Taka ta. And you know, for those who don't know, I'm a part of a Latino fraternity with a multicultural membership. It is Sigma Lambda Beta International Fraternity Incorporated. We are coast to coast. And yes, and so like one of our brothers like would joke with that song and be like, Maliki Taka T, Maliki Taka Ta. And then it just stuck. And then like later on, like as new members joined, like got shortened to Taka. So I had a longer nickname than my actual name, which then got shortened to like just a name itself. But honestly, it's very fitting because like Malik is actually my middle name. You know, if some people don't know that, I go by my middle name because my dad and I have the same first name. And like, there's so many people in my family that have that first name too. And like, it's a little hard to distinguish when you have like people like five. So my dad's name is Lonnie. It's hard to distinguish. You have like 5 different Lonnies or 4 different Lonnies in your family. Who's who. So we have ways of distinguishing them. I call my dad Lonnie, and then my grandfather, who is actually my mom's like dad on my mom's side, I call him Big Daddy. And like I have an Uncle Lonnie. Actually, technically, I have 2 Uncle Lonnie. I have 2 Uncle Lonnies on that side. And so it's like, I mean, I'm Malik. To everybody on both sides of my family, I'm Malik. And it's interesting, like I always say, like I find it funny that my mom ended up like marrying a man with the same name as her stepdad and her like brother, younger brother. It's like hilarious to me. But yeah. And so like I like the name, but I just got used to being called Malik, and Malik felt like me. But like I also like Maliki Taka because it is a play off of Malik, and Malik is already a name, but like Maliki Taka has a playfulness that kind of sounds like my essence if I were to describe it. I'm very all over the place. I'm very random. But like long story short, like I mean, because that is a very long explanation. Like, it did come from a song, and now I go by either, you know, some people call me by the full nickname. They call me Malik, or they call me Maliki Taka, or they just call me Taka.
I have to wonder how often you walked into a house in college and people were just like, Maliki Taka.
It happened quite a bit.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, it seems like it'd be such a great thing just to like shout out.
That's how it became. It also became my Instagram handle. So like, you know, I've like fully embraced it at this point. And I realized like Taka, it's also like, I use Taka a lot in queer spaces because it's very gender neutral.
So both these names are kind of reflective. Sorry, not both these names, but this is all like reflective of different parts of your identity, perhaps?
Yes, I would say so. It's, I mean, something that definitely has like more so time, different parts of my life, like different particular pieces. Like my becoming of a young person in school and in college and being like submersed within that environment and a particular group of people who I call like my family, my chosen family, but then also like my queerness as well. And so it's definitely, I would say my name is transformed with me. I think as it should with everyone. It's not that I don't necessarily like my birth name or anything like that, but it is definitely something that I feel like I've grown with and will probably continue to grow. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Every moment has like a different little thing. You may be different things to different people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that makes sense. That's really sweet. So the Zesty Podcast, can you explain your child? Your child is Zesty.
My child, my seed, I don't like that. My son, as you might say, one of my sons. So yeah, I mean, the Zesty Podcast was born out of wanting to experiment and do something that felt like I could put forth my creative energy in some way, shape, or form that I've wanted to do for years. I've wanted to do some type of show, whether it be a podcast or video form. I mean, it's all the same thing. As we're discovering, podcasts are now going on video or audio for a long time. And I had different iterations with different co-hosts and different ideas. But I landed on, I want to say, the Zesty Podcast not too long ago, maybe within the last like year or so, when I came to you about it, actually, I think. And the title really itself like kind of informed like the direction that it went, because I'm in this place now living in New York where I've been for the last almost, 5 years. Actually could be 5 years by the time this comes out. So I've been living in New York for like the last 5 years and realized that like my process of becoming, like we were talking about earlier, is like still happening. I am still transforming. I'm still learning new things about myself. And one of the things that I've become more comfortable with, not to say that I wasn't as comfortable with before I moved here, is my queerness, because New York is so big. It's so open. If you allow it to be, it can be transformative. And there are, spaces that are boldly queer, boldly Black, boldly Latine. Like, you find that everywhere you go. And so, like, in this space, I was able to fully embrace those different parts of me. And the term zesty was kind of being used on the like internet, like on social media. You hear it, you're like, oh, he's a little zesty. He's zesty. Like this person is, oh, that's real zesty. Like zesty this, zesty that. And it was used kind of like as a diminutive, like, and I didn't really like that, because like I thought it was funny, but like I was also like, okay, like what's wrong with being zesty? Hey, like, isn't zesty another way of saying somebody is bold, somebody does have personality, somebody is putting themselves out there or saying what they want or how they feel? So like, isn't it a great thing to be zesty? And so that's kind of been my motto from like, since I've heard that term, I'm like, okay, I'm a zesty zillennial creative. That's who I am, because I'm already, I can't be sassy sometimes. I know. I know some of my friends would be like, okay, Malik, you a little sassy. You a little shady sometimes. Like, in moments they're like, that was shady. And I was like, but I said it in a nice way. like, didn't you appreciate that part? Like, just ignore the shade. They're like, oh my God, you're so nice. Like, that's like the hidden joke about me. People will be like, oh my God, like Malik is so like nice, such a nice person, so chill, but also like at times, like the little shady parts sneak up on people. And I think I would like kind of conceal it because like the shadiness would come out of like maybe a secret like truth telling that I would sort of hide. But like these days, like the older I get and the more sure of myself that I get and the more that I learn myself and who I am and who I'm becoming, I realize that like you just need to put some of that stuff like in the forefront. You need to be out loud about it. You need to be you need to be a little zesty sometimes. Just share what's on your mind. Like, you know, you don't have to do like shade in like little small font letters. I mean, instead of putting it at like, 12-point font, put that shit on like, I don't know, 144.
Fill up the whole page.
Yes.
Fill up the page. That makes me wonder, like, why do you think we as a zillennial culture society, like, why are we assigning the word zest to this, like, flavor, so to speak? Like, why is it zesty? Why is it not spicy? Or, like, why is it not sour?
That's a good
question. Or, like,
question.
we already know what salty means, right? Like, salty.
But that has a different meaning, though.
Yeah, salty has a different meaning. And that makes sense because salty, like, tears are salty. Tears
are salty.
Yeah, so why is this essence that we're referring to, why is it zesty?
I think what it is that, like, since you said, I was like, wow, you are absolutely right. Tears are salty. Like, and, salty, when someone's like, oh, salty, you're thinking like, oh, wow, they must feel stupid right now. Like, that's a little different. That's like, and then like spicy, I mean, also one of those things that it was a diminutive, but it was like reclaimed in some capacity by some communities. Zesty as it relates to like queerness and just like the term in general, I think like in some cases people, like when we're making fun of Drake, for being zesty, it's like, like that little like trying to be like, ooh, he's zesty, like, like kind of make fun of, kind of joke about like these mannerisms, like the femininity. But in other cases, I feel like people wish they were zesty. I think zesty is, as a term, it doesn't strike as a bad thing, which I think is why it's so versatile as a title, because it could also mean bringing the zest out of life. It could also mean like evoking your best self. It could mean so many different things that are unrelated to how the word is used, which makes it versatile. I once had a friend ask me like the same question, like, why you call the podcast Zesty? Like, why do you want people, like, I think more people would like tune in if it was, called something else a little bit more general. But I was like, and in that case, would I sort of be hiding a part of, myself, a part of my personality to make it a little bit more palatable for like other people? And then like, I want to be bold. Like, that is my philosophy. Like, I want to be bold. Like in the coming years of my life, I want to be bold. So why not zesty?
I like that. I mean, yeah, why not be bold? You said something along the lines of like coming to New York, being here for 5 years or nearly 5 years, that not that you didn't feel comfortable with yourself before, but like it's such a big, bold scene here. And how do you feel like in your experience that New York compares to maybe where you were in college or where you grew up? Like, how has that kind of affected and changed the way you see everything? Because now you're like, I want to be bold. Have you always wanted to be bold?
At times of my life, I was bold. At times of my life, I was pretty brash. I was one of those kids where, like, first of all, as a toddler and like to my like young years, I was pretty bad. Like I used to bite people, but that's different. That's different. I've always been like, I've always been bright, smart. When people talk about like, the gifted and talented track that could, they're just neurodivergent, really.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably one of those kids. Like, I was always distracted. I was always doing something. I was always trying to start something new.
Mm.
I had my whole friend group in a clique, and I brought them like shades and different color shades and like name tags. Like we were some sort of entourage. I don't know what we were doing. One time I started a band. Another time I started like a comic book club and the school newspaper. Actually, that went pretty far. That like in elementary school, I started a school newspaper, and like there was a whole announcement, and I was like, you know what? This is just the thing that I've been like interested in for the last 2 weeks or these last few days. Like, I did not expect this to go here because I'm gonna have a new idea next week. But like my parents have always told me that like I like to juggle many things and do many things. But with that also came like the spirit of like randomness and talkativeness, where it's like people don't like, if you talk too much and you're like random and a little bit silly, people think you're weird. And so eventually, what I learned to do was to silence myself. So I've become very quiet. And so, like, I'll give, like, maybe like to 15 to 20% of my personality in public spaces. And I learned that is like a good way to introduce yourself to other people, like in spurts. So like I'll start off quiet. People get to know, like, they're like, oh, Malik is very quiet. And everybody's like, who knows me? Like, little do you know, this bitch won't shut the fuck up. Like, like it's like that. Like literally, like people are like, oh, they're so quiet. Like, oh my gosh, they don't. Oh my god, they're so quiet. And then it's like the people who really know me are like, oh my god, this will not stop talking. And so I'm a little bit like that. Like that is my personality. Is like once you get to know me, I just don't stop talking. But like I'm afraid of being like labeled as annoying. And I mean, I shouldn't say I am afraid. I was afraid of being labeled as annoying. Now I really don't care. I learned that the people who gravitate towards you are meant to be. And the people who don't, they can stay over in their corner over there. They can be like furthest, sit where they need to be. Like, yeah. Over there away from me. But like
for sure.
It's like you don't have to like compartmentalize your personality for all these different spaces. I still do for work because I need a job. But like, like you got to be professional. Mm-hmm. I had this conversation with my dad. He was like, "Oh, our generation doesn't know how to be like, you can't bring like your full self to work. He's like, your generation always wants to bring your full self to work. You don't need to be bringing your full self to work."
Really?
Like, okay, but that's old head frame of thinking.
I feel like that's an interesting, I guess, like divide that you see, because I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like the older generation got to be their full selves at work. They were like the office party era. They were like being unprofessional. This was like the generation of HR violations.
You are absolutely right.
And
I'm so afraid of one of those.
I feel like we're the opposite. Like our generation is like, leave it at home. I don't want to like. I feel like it's almost
I'm here for a check.
Yeah, like I feel like it's a common complaint about our generation that like we're very stiff and like shy at work, which is like, well, I don't want to. Nor do I want to get in trouble, but I also don't want to like necessarily get into something with someone else where they're like sharing too much information and being too much of like.
Yeah, because it can get real awkward real fast.
Yeah, I mean, I've
definitely overshared.
I mean, I've overshared. I overshare on all the time, but like, like I think it's just also the fear of the HR violation. Yeah.
I mean, HR will come for you, and when they do, like, it is serious. Yeah. And if you have, like, a little bit of melanin, the rules are different. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, you know, I've always been taught to be hyper aware of those things. Where I'm just like, do I want to be the queer, like, Black person that is like getting in trouble?
Yeah,
like, for something.
I feel like gender definitely plays a huge role because, like, men have a lot of leeway in how they can act at work, like straight men especially. I do think other genders are definitely more like self-policing all the time, being like, is this going to be interpreted a certain way? Like,
because it's true. Like, like something that you do or say might be interpreted differently based on who you are. I mean, it just happens. I think we like to ignore that facet, that aspect of our world that we live in. But, like, you know, it is all like, I mean, we both have a background in media. Like, even if we don't describe it as like implicit bias or discrimination, the way that I sometimes describe it in a way that is more palatable for people who deny those things, like, I don't deny those things, but it's like, it is optics. It is marketing. And marketing and optics is informed by implicit biases, like, you know? And so it's like, it's true. Like, you sometimes think about like how you come across based on who you are, because you come out with this already pre-existing package that like is perceived a little differently.
Yeah. I definitely think like there's so much self-policing that goes into being in the workplace and like not wanting to be too much or not wanting to like come off super strongly or, you know, God forbid, like come off as aggressive. I feel like that's like the worst. That's like against the law, like punishable by, you know, everything.
What you just said reminded me of something like that I had with that happened to me in college like a long time ago. And like, you know, people have told me, I've heard different iterations of it. Like, people tell me like, oh, wow, you're like, they said you were aggressive. They said you were standoffish. They said you were this. I was like, damn, do I have a resting bitch face? I thought I had a resting smile face because, like, how? Like, you know, other people will tell me, like, I'm a teddy bear. Like, people be like, oh, my God, you're so kind. You're so nice. But, like, you know, people who don't know me very well or, like, you know, probably have not met me will be like, oh, I think they're a little standoffish or they're aggressive. I'm like, who are you to make that judgment on me? You must be standoffish. I was like, why are you making preconceived, like, notions of how I think about you or how I treat you based off of limited information? That sounds more like a personal problem. Because, like, you're doing it just based on how I look. Have you asked me about myself? Did you try to get to know me?
It's the projection.
It is.
Projection, for sure.
A lot of people project. They be projecting.
Okay. As we move forward on the Zesty podcast, what do you think is, can you share like your zestiest, this doesn't have to be like literal, your zestiest moment, like, perhaps ever. It does not have to be literal and you do not have to TMI. Not for me, but for the audience, you know? But what's a zesty moment in life? Like, what do you think sums up this whole vibe?
I'm because I don't want to TMI because I have many a few zesty moments. But I like want to think of the thing that is the most appropriate thing to say, or not necessarily appropriate. I don't know if I really care about being as like super appropriate on this platform as much as I do being real and like raw and authentic. But I'm trying to think of something that is like a clear example of like me being zesty. And I think I would have to say, like, I don't know. I would have to say there was this one person I'll give an example, a personal example that is like a little bit more removed. This was a few years ago. It was on one of my birthdays, and I invited this person to my birthday. A person that I had been becoming friends with, and I had showed up to like every like event that they had showed up, for them. Small, didn't really expect anything in return. But then I had like my birthday, which was like once a year. And like usually, for other people who didn't come, I didn't care. I'm like, okay, it's fine. I did reserve, and I like had, to put down a deposit, but it wasn't really about that. And I remember this person like canceling the day of. And I don't know. It was something that just struck with me. Like it struck me in that moment where I was just like, wait. I was like, I showed up for this person, like for all types of celebrations and events. And like I thought we valued each other a little bit more. But I realized in that moment, I was like, they don't really show up for me as much as I thought, they did. And so then I was like, okay, I like recalculated in my mind. I was like, is this person someone that I should really be invested as much in? And then after that, I think I just like completely just like, like ignored like invites that I didn't feel like going to. I mean, I showed up a couple of times, but it was never the same. And like some people might be like, that's real petty. Like, I'm like, oh, you just like deaded them as a friend. No, it wasn't like that. It was like, oh, it's like I've invested this time and energy into a person and I realized they didn't feel the same way. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like bold about it. For the first time ever, like, I would give people like the benefit of the doubt. And I started to realize, I'm like, stop giving people so much of the benefit of the doubt when they haven't really like been there. People are telling you or kind of showing by example what they want from you or who they are, and you have to listen. And that like really stuck with me, that interaction. I was like, you know what, in this next phase of life, I need to have reciprocal energy in my friendships. We need to be on the same vibe, and if we're not, I got to be able to keep it pushing. I can't allow this to affect my mood or personality because we saw the relationship a little bit differently, and that's completely fine. I think it's the mindset thing. And so maybe that's like, I mean, that's going to be my zestiest example, because I want people to realize that you can wake up and change your mind. You could do something different. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it takes a little time and a little baby steps and courage to do so. But you can absolutely move an inch towards the person you want to be. Like, I am still working towards that big, bold. I'm not saying that I'm out here like bold, big every day, but like, I'm working towards it and I'm having fun. And I'm like working on being myself at every capacity and every space that I can, because that's all I can be.
I love that. And that's also a really hard realization to have as you're maturing in life, is like, how can I be authentically myself? Well, you can't keep making space for people who aren't making space for you, because that's not going to lead to your most authentic authentic reactions or interactions. Sorry.
Exactly.
It's a tough one. And especially, I mean, I really wish we could get into the birthday event debates, but that might be for another episode.
That's a whole different can of worms. That's a whole different conversation.
I really wish
some people take that really seriously. I don't as much, but it also is like dependent on the person. You really got to peep like who is there for you and who is not. Mm-hmm. Like, but like, if you cancel on me, you just genuinely can't make it. I get it. But it's, it's the patterns that you got to peep. But like, there are some etiquette things though. Like day of canceling.
Day of canceling is a little, of course shit happens. But day of canceling on your birthday, man.
Yeah.
I guess that's for another day, because listen, when you have your birthday, you're like hosting something, whether you're meeting up with people or a dinner, whatever. It feels vulnerable. It feels vulnerable to invite people and then wonder like how many people are going to show up. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yes.
And I'm glad that it was a relatively small incident that made you realize like this person's not making space for me. I don't need to make so much space for them, and I need to be who I want to be.
I will say, though, my last birthday, everybody who needed to be there was there, and it was absolutely amazing.
It was fun.
You would know because you were there because you showed up.
Yep, exactly. Well, thank you for sharing that. This is the Zesty Podcast. I'm your producer, sitting in the host seat for today only, Rose Marina Boubion, and that was your future host, Malik, Taka Anderson. Thank you.
Bye, y'all.